Once upon a time, a very unhappy man approached a Buddhist monk and said, "I am very unhappy with my life. I can't keep my wife, children, or family happy. I can't even do anything for myself. Sometimes I even think about ending my life. You practice so much meditation and penance. Can you show me a way out of my difficult times? I'm going through a terrible phase, and even arranging 2 meals a day has become very difficult for me. Please tell me how to stay alive during such times and how to keep my family happy. Please give me some simple advice that I can easily understand, because I am not very educated. If you speak in deep philosophical terms, I may not understand at all." Hearing this, the Buddhist monk smiled and said, "You can do one thing." The Buddhist monk then pointed towards a high hill and said, "On that hill there is a temple, and near that temple there is an ant hill where thousands of ants live. It may sound strange to you, but those ants spoil the temple's ground and diminish the soil's fertility, which prevents any trees or grass from growing there. Do one thing for me, and then I will answer your questions. For 7 days, go to that hill every day and destroy that anthill. Break it down. Whenever you see an anthill around the temple, destroy it, but remember that no ants should die while you are destroying their home." The man, trying to understand this, left the place. He didn't quite understand why the Buddhist monk was asking him to do such a thing. He wondered if the Buddhist monk was being unfair to the ants, destroying their homes and harming them. But still, following the Buddhist monk's words, he began going to the hill the next day. When he reached the hill on the first day, he saw many ants gathering food, walking in a line, and carrying small grains to store in their home. Seeing this, the man's heart weakened. He thought, "These ants are working so hard to fill their home, and if I destroy it, they will feel terrible." But then he remembered the Buddhist monk's words and started breaking down the anthill. Soon there was chaos among the ants. They started running around trying to save themselves. The line they were walking in broke, and they scattered. In a short time, the anthill was destroyed, and all the ants fled to hide. After doing this, the man returned home with a heavy heart. He was troubled, sad, and filled with regret. That night, while lying in bed, he thought, "The anthill is now destroyed, so what's the point of going back there? The Buddhist monk asked me to destroy the anthill, which I have done, but after thinking it over, he decided to go back the next day." Early in the morning, he went back to the hill. When he reached the spot where he had destroyed the anthill the previous morning, he was shocked to see that the ants had rebuilt their home in the same place, and now they were once again busy collecting materials for their home. Seeing this, the man thought the ants were foolish. They knew their home was destroyed yesterday, yet they rebuilt it in the same place. Thinking this, the man laughed, but remembering the Buddhist monk's words, he began destroying the anthill again. Once again, chaos ensued among the ants, and soon their home was destroyed again. This time, feeling somewhat satisfied that he had thoroughly destroyed the home, the man thought, "Now the ants won't be able to rebuild their home here." So, before leaving, he poured cold water on the spot to ensure the ants couldn't rebuild their home there. Having completed his task, the man returned home again, but this time he was more troubled than before. He thought, "Is the Buddhist monk doing the right thing by making me destroy the ants' home? Does it befit a holy man to destroy someone's home? What if the Buddhist monk isn't holy at all? What if he's just fooling me?" But he resolved to complete the task first, and then figure out why the Buddhist monk was making him do this. With this thought, he fell asleep. The next morning he again set out for the hill. When he reached the spot where he had destroyed the ants' home, he was happy to see that there was no anthill there, and all the ants had fled. He thought, "What's the point of coming here every day now, as the ants have moved their home?" He decided to go directly to the Buddhist monk and tell him the whole story. As he was about to turn back and head to the Buddhist monk's hut, he suddenly spotted another anthill nearby. The ants had built a new home, not far from the old one. The man thought, perhaps the Buddhist monk knew the ants would move their home, which is why he asked me to come here for 7 days. Thinking this, he decided to destroy the new anthill too. When he reached there, the ants were again busy with their work, gathering food and storing it in their new home. Some grains were still left at the spot where the old anthill was destroyed, and the ants were bringing them to their new home. Again, the man's heart weakened, as he too was a victim of hard times, and he felt compassion for the ants. He wanted to help them, but instead, he was harming them. However, remembering the Buddhist monk's words, he decided to destroy the anthill again. This time, he was very careful not to harm any ants, as the Buddhist monk had instructed earlier. It took more time, as he was destroying the anthill very carefully. Finally, he destroyed the anthill, but this time, he was even more sad because he had destroyed their new home too. He felt like a devil or a demon, not allowing the ants to settle anywhere. But still, following the Buddhist monk's instructions, he returned home with a heavy heart. Before sleeping that night, he thought, "I am such a demon, such a devil. I won't even let these ants settle anywhere. What must they think of me? What kind of monster am I, doing such cruel work at the command of a higher power?" But despite these thoughts, he decided to go again the next morning. The following morning, he went back to the hill, only to find that the ants had built yet another new home in a different place. This time, they were working with even more energy, having built a bigger home overnight and were once again busy gathering food. Seeing this, the man thought, "What kind of creatures are these ants made of? I keep trying to drive them away, but they keep rebuilding their home in the same place. Don't they know I will never let them settle here? The ants are so small, yet they refuse to give up. What a wonder!" And this time, he angrily began destroying the anthill again. But in his rage, some ants were crushed under his feet. When he realized this, his heart filled with remorse. He felt like a monster for harming the ants and left, crying towards his home. That night, before sleeping, he thought, "I am being too cruel to these ants. I can't continue this anymore." So, the next morning, he took some flour from his home and went to the hill. Today, he felt a sense of reverence and compassion for the ants and wanted to help them. When he reached the hill, he saw that the ants were busy building their new home again. With great compassion, he fed the ants the flour he had brought. For the next 7 days, he continued to do the same, going to the hill every morning and feeding the ants with his own hands. After 7 days, the man went to the Buddhist monk, folded his hands and said, "O Buddhist monk, please forgive me. I tried very hard to destroy the ants' home. I did destroy it, not once, but 4 times. But after that, I couldn't gather the strength to destroy it again. I understand that I failed to complete your task, and as a result, you might not tell me the way out of my troubles. But I don't care about that anymore. I believe what I did was right. So, I seek your permission to return home. Please allow me to go back to my home." Hearing this, the Buddhist monk smiled and said, "Oh, my child, where are you going? Stay a while, have some refreshments, and then you can leave." Saying this, the Buddhist monk brought water for the man. After giving him water, the Buddhist monk asked, "Tell me, why couldn't you destroy the ants' home? The ants are small, and you are much bigger, yet you couldn't destroy their tiny home. Where is your strength? Where is your power?" In response, the man said, "O Buddhist monk, I did destroy the ants' home. I did it repeatedly. I even harmed the ants in my anger. But the day I harmed them, I realized, why am I harming them? Why am I causing them so much pain? From that day on, I stopped harming them and started helping them instead." Hearing this, the Buddhist monk said, "That is the lesson to be learned. Even a tiny ant teaches us about life. I didn't send you to destroy the ants' home. I sent you so that you could learn something from the ants. What lesson did you learn from them? Can you tell me?" The man narrated the whole story. After hearing it, the Buddhist monk smiled and said, "Son, the first lesson to learn from the ants is that no matter how many times you tried to destroy their home, no matter how many attempts you made, they kept rebuilding their home each time. They never gave up. If they had given up, you wouldn't have found them there. Life is about being active, but we humans often give up after failing once or twice. We become disheartened and stop trying. and some even go as far as wanting to end their lives. But have you ever noticed that animals never take their own lives, no matter how hungry or sad they are? They always keep struggling for their lives. On the other hand, we humans give up on life after facing a little despair. Life is about taking action. Life is about working, and death is the ultimate rest. So never stop working before death, because after death you will naturally enter into eternal rest. So why stop working before that? Why become disheartened? If one house is destroyed, try to build another. Keep trying. And as you've seen with those ants, those who keep trying never lose. The ants are much smaller than you, yet their spirit is much stronger and more determined. Despite their home being destroyed repeatedly, they never gave up. The second lesson is that whenever we face difficult times, we think that time will never pass, that it will ruin our lives and never let us live. These thoughts, these ideas, which have no real existence, are just thoughts, and they are the ones that make our hearts heavy. That's why we stop trying. But think about it, nature will continue to harm us repeatedly, but for how long? If we keep getting up and trying again, even nature will eventually bow before us and become merciful. And one day, it will give us everything we've ever wished for. You saw it yourself. You went to destroy the ants, but later you started feeding them grain and flour. You became merciful towards them. Why? Because you saw that the ants never gave up. Similarly, if you never give up in your life, one day, nature will give you everything you ever wanted. So, remember these two lessons. Keep working, and one day, nature will surely reward you for your efforts. So friends, I hope you learned a lot from this story. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to our channel Inspirazen. Also, let us know in the comments what you thought of the video. We greatly appreciate your support. See you in the next video.